Alright folks, got an exciting video here, how to work with projects and budgets using QuickBooks Online. This is meant to be a beginner tutorial to make sure that you feel comfortable setting up your very first project working with QuickBooks Online. So, one of the things that we need to consider before jumping right into the software is you've got to be on QuickBooks Online Plus or QuickBooks Advanced. These are the two versions of QuickBooks Online at the moment that support the projects feature and the budgets feature. So we're going to look at how to set one up. We're going to look at how to track how much you've spent on your project versus your actual budget that you had planned for, and look at the variances. And then just overall, just how one can manage the whole project by going to the projects module and easily seeing everything that's happening with the project to see if you're on track. So one thing to note is that you must have a customer created first before you can create the project. That's because a project is essentially a sub-customer of the project, okay? It's very possible that you can have a customer with more than one project. You know, for example, if you're doing construction and you do, let's say you're remodeling and you remodel a customer's basement. Well, you could have a basement project and track all your costs and income associated with that basement. But then 3 years later, they call you and say, hey, can you help us repair our kitchen? Therefore, the customer's still there. We would create a kitchen project so that way we can manage all the expenses and income associated with that new kitchen project. So if you're going to have a lot of projects, one recommendation is to consider how you're going to name the projects, and you're just striving for consistency. So for example, if you're running lots of work sites, you might use the address of the street, like 100 Main Street. That would be the project name. For the customer is going to be the name of the customer, you know, first and last name if it's a person, or a business name if it's a company. But just being consistent with how you name your projects will be easier for your team to make sure that when they're booking their time or whatever the scenario is, booking a purchase order for something, you would have the actual project name easy to find. So when you get into the projects tab, it's easy to see everything in one place. Alright, so let's get started. I am in my demo QuickBooks Online account, and the first thing you've got to do when you're working with a new project is you've got to create the new customer first. So let's go ahead and begin with hovering over the sales menu, then selecting customers, and in the top right hand corner we want to select the new customer here. I'll begin by typing the name of the customer. We'll say it's Eagle's Wings. If I had information on the email, I would put that here. I'm just going to put my email real quick here. Next, what we want to do is we want to go to the notes area and put any particular notes of kind of how we are getting this information here. Say I got a lead from Jen. There's opportunities to put in the tax information here, payment and billings, what our terms are, how we'd like to send invoices, what kind of language. Let's say we have a particular contract. We can attach a contract or anything of noteworthiness there. And then we have the ability to set up different customer types as well if necessary. Okay, so at this point, just going to keep it bare minimum here and create a customer called Eagle's Wings. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to now be in a position of setting up the very first project. Okay, so on the left hand side you ought to see projects. If you don't see projects on the left hand side, you'll have to click on the gear icon and navigate to the account and settings, and then from here simply turn on the projects feature that you could see here. Okay, it is, so it's under advanced projects, organize all job related activity in one place. Just double check that that's turned on. Again, you've got to be on the plus version or advanced version to take advantage of this feature here. So while we're here, let me talk about one thing really quickly here. Back to sales here. This progress invoicing here, because we're going to be setting up a $75,000 project. Our terms for this particular customer Eagles Wings, they expect to pay. We're going to have 40% due to start the project, 40% due in the middle of the project, and 20% due at the end of the project. So progress invoicing is the perfect solution to convert an estimate into an invoice multiple times. And so you've got to make sure that that's turned on, that you've got progress invoicing turned on in order to do this conversion of multiple estimates, multiple invoices off one estimate. Okay. All right, so now that I've got projects enabled, I'm going to go to the projects tab on the left. And from here, we kind of get this little note here: run your projects with confidence, make better decisions by knowing how your jobs are doing. Great. So the ultimate goal is to be able to have a dashboard that shows us our income, our cost and expenses to equal our project profitability here. So you can see why it's really cool if you want to really focus on a particular effort that your business is doing for a particular project. Okay, so I'm going to hit Start Project. And we talked about earlier, it's important to have a naming convention of kind of how you want to do it. Let's say that your naming convention is to always name it based on the street address. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. Let's imagine that we're going to name this based off of the actual location of where we're going to the client site to do the work. Okay, who's the project for? Again, you've got to make sure that you have the customer in there first before you do this. And then any notes that you'd like to remember later. All right, I'm just going to say 75,000 training / consulting for 8th month project. All right, and so we are going to be live when you hit save. This is our place that we go to look at our projects. Okay, so at a glance, you're going to track your income on the left, your cost here. Notice we can do hours spent on this project if you do time, our expenses, our bills, and then over here we're going to generate our profit here. Our transactions tab that we see here will have the ability to locate every single transaction that comes with it. Purchase orders, estimates, bills, invoices, delayed charges, all of that you're going to see in the transactions tab here, with the ability to filter out. So if you just want to see bills, for example, we'd be able to easily filter it out there. We have the time activity. So if you have employees or contractors that need to put their time against a particular project, you're going to be able to see that here. It integrates with QuickBooks Time, or you can manually go in after the fact and post updated time towards a project cost. The project reports feature, we're going to have the ability to have project profitability, time cost by employee or vendor, and unbilled time and expenses. So if you're in an industry where you actually do the billable charges, you know, you go out and buy something, let's say you purchase airfare tickets and you're going to need to invoice that to the customer of the project, we could see right here maybe things that you forgot to roll up into an invoice for the customer for the billable expenses that have, or time that haven't yet been added to a customer invoice. So that's helpful to see things that may have slipped through the cracks in one place. An astute manager would be able to find these things pretty easily. And in the upper right hand corner, we've got this add to project button here. This is helpful for staying organized and wanting to go in and add a new transaction to this project to keep things going here. So here we go here. One of the things that, if you're wondering, if I've noticed is a little glitch sometimes, is you might create the project and it doesn't quite seem to be taking place. If that's the case, do make sure that you do a good refresh on your web page if you think there's some kind of disconnect between your customer creation and the project creation. There certainly could be some issues. Anytime we're working in a browser, it's important that typically it will save as you go, but if for whatever reason you're not seeing what you expect to see, do a save, refresh, log out, log back in to have it properly load to be able to see anything that's just newly created on the fly here. Okay, so our next action item that I'd like to do when you're setting up a brand new project is you're probably going to, for a big project, you're probably going to need to send the potential customer a quote or an estimate, however you like to say it, to get them to see the actual proposition of what you're going to be trying to sell them. Okay, so in the upper right hand corner we can select add to project, and I'd like to click on this estimate here. We're going to do a $75,000 estimate here. Okay. Alright, so the first thing is, let's set this up for training, and we're just going to do an 8-month training for employees at Eagle's Wings, covering Microsoft 365 and soft skills training. Okay. Awesome. All right. So again, you could do multiple product services and so forth like that, but the idea here is that, now this is going to be in Texas, so I'm going to tag it for Texas. I've already created this. If you wanted to see how you can set up tags by state, check out my other videos on my blog. Just search QuickBooks tagging and you should find this video that I show you how to set these up here. I did that because I wanted some folks that are concerned about Wayfair, South Dakota, tracking sales tax outside states might want to kind of keep their eyes on kind of volume of sales by state. Alright, so this is going to fall under the group training that we have here, as well as another tag here. Awesome. Alright, so just double check everything here. I'm not working with classes or locations. I could if I wanted to, but the main thing is we're going to post this right now. If I wanted to attach anything that's anything that might be useful, I could do that here. Okay, so I just dragged and dropped a few source documents, and I would like these source documents to go to the customer, so I'll click attach to email. And I'm liking how things are so far, so I'll go ahead and hit the save button. That has been saved, non-posting. It won't be until we generate an invoice out of it will it actually hit the books here. Let me go ahead and email that out, save and send. Perfect. Send and close. Okay. Perfect. All right. So let's now take a look at where did that go. That would have gone to the transactions tab here. We're going to see estimate 1001. Here the status is pending here. I can pause right now. I'm going to actually go into my email editor and open that up here. So just give me a quick second to do that. Awesome. So here we go. We've got the estimate 1001 from Digital Collaboration QBO document. I can come down below and I can see that the estimate was attached here. That's awesome. So I've got that opportunity there. And then I also have the other, the contract here with more details, and then the bank authorization form so they could provide how payments are going to be set up, providing we do move forward with that particular invoice there, converting here. So awesome here. The other thing is, I might not know if I sent it to the right email. So one of the things I can do is I can go back into the estimate, open it up here, and I can see, first of all, it can show me that it was sent on 9/21, but going down below, when it's an invoice, you're going to have an opportunity to see the time tracking in here as well for that, which can be really helpful there. Okay, so perfect. Let's say they managed to say, yes, let's do it. And again, we would like to have this be actually billed at 40% here, so right off the gate. So let's go ahead and click on Create Invoice. And it's going to ask us, how much do you want to invoice? We can go ahead and do 40% of each line. If you have more than one line here, another cool thing you can do is you can do a custom amount, and then that way you could perhaps like close out certain things and manage it that way as well. Just depends on how detailed your estimates are going to go. Okay, so we are good to go here. If we're going to be collecting with a credit card or bank transfer, we've got our QuickBooks payments account already set up for that. We would have these enabled here. Notice below that we've got due 40% of 70. So even if I messed up earlier, I could go back in and change the percentages here, and that would update. So if I said 45%, for example, it's going to update automatically. Go back to 40. Or if I decide that I don't need percents, I would like to do amounts, I could do that as well and manage it here. Okay. So awesome. I'm going to save and send that. All right. Okay, so here's the invoice here. You could review and pay online here. You can see the invoice attached right there as well, 30%. It can says 0.40 there. Of course, I could write up other contents and all that for that as well. Exactly what I want. Okay. Awesome. All right. Let me go ahead now and show you at this particular point in time, if I start at the overview and refresh here. Okay. All right. So you might be wondering, well, where's the 30,000 here? Well, it is going to be situated based on if you are cash or accrual basis here. So because I've got my book set for cash basis, my income is showing 0 at this particular time. Even though when I go to the transactions tab and I can see that I have an open invoice for 30,000, let me go back real quick to the gear icon, accountant settings, turn on the advanced, and then switch it to cash accrual basis here. And then refresh. Okay, so now we're starting to track here with 30,000 accrued at this particular point in time with our reporting structure here. So let's take a quick look to see if they opened up the invoice. I'm going to open up the invoice. Shows when we sent it, but down below we can see that there was an opening or a viewing of that. Now, take this with a grain of salt here because there's lots of email editors that it might hit, it's Gmail and Apple Mail and Microsoft, so it's take it with a grain of salt. Just because it says viewed doesn't necessarily mean it was actually read. It could have been kind of opened on their reading pane and so forth, but you can tell if you come back in here and it's open a lot and there's like 20 different things, you can definitely know that they're checking it out and they're seeing that. So it is really helpful here. One thing's for certain, if you don't see any activity under the Activities tab when you send out an invoice, then you know for sure that your email that you sent it to is not going, or it's just not arriving to where you want. By the way, you can have CC and BCCs as well on these right here. And though you won't be able to tell actually who is reading it, because it's always just going to have the actual customer name viewing it and so forth. And sometimes it could be anything, because you can definitely send a link to as well. We can save and share a link if necessary. This could be texted to somebody, for example, as well. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and receive that payment. If they had paid with a credit card or a bank transfer, it would automatically close the invoice out here, but we're just going to go ahead and modify it and just say that they did an e-check, ACH, so it went automatically through our checking account on today. Should be good here. Save and close. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new vendor, and we're going to need to have $12,000 of room rentals to host this training at. So let's begin by going over on the left-hand side and creating a new vendor. Okay. So here, what we want to do here is manage to set up, we'll just call it Room Rentals Plus. Okay. We'll put a note here that says rents classroom, computer rent rooms for training. Okay. There's emails and so forth. So if we wanted to have a quick example here of an email, we would just do that. So that way we can email our purchase orders to that particular. Anything else we'd want to have would be all done right in here. Any attachments, for example, we would have as well. We would hit save. And then what we would do is we'd probably find ourselves back in the projects window. And if you have more than one project, all you got to do to open it up is click on the project name. And then we're back in here. Okay, so our second transaction I want to do is I want to do a $12,000 purchase order. We click Add to Project, Purchase Order. I'm not finding that that vendor there, so I'm not sure why it's not posting, but what I can do, I can do an audit log to see what was the last thing that I did in QuickBooks. So I'm going to click on the gear icon, and under Tools, click Audit Log, and see if I actually did save it or not. Yeah, I did. So I added a vendor called Room Rentals Plus. I'm going to go back to the project and try again here. So on the project tab, we can go to add to project, purchase order, and I do have room rentals plus coming in here. So just let that be a lesson not to doubt yourself when you've created something like a new customer, a new project, or a new vendor. There are instances where trying to use that particular object, vendor, customer, project right away sometimes does not exactly work. So refreshing the website will go so far, but it could also just be that the servers need time to update it for it to be indexed, for it to be populated off of the list there. So if you're struggling, just I know it doesn't sound like an easy answer, but trust me, it's worth it just to wait it out, refresh, log out, log back in, come back in, and eventually it will get there. Okay. All right, so at this point in time, we've got a purchase order. Again, a purchase order is non-posting. No matter how much this dollar amount happens to be, it will not affect your books. Only if it gets accepted and converted to a bill will it then hit the books here. So I've got my email that I'm going to email this to here. I'm going to come down below and select the product. If I have products, I'd set them up here, but I actually don't, so I'm going to go to category. And the main difference is a category is just 100% straight chart of accounts. A product service is going to be typically when you invoice the customer what you're selling, but it also can be the other side too. You can also purchase the same item. You have to set up your product services so that they are double-sided, meaning that you can sell it and buy it. And look for the checkbox when you're setting up a new product or service to do such and such as well. So real quick here, if I was going to have something here, you know, everything up here is what I'm selling, but then down below where it says I purchased this product from a vendor. So if you would like to have a bill, have a product service, you've got to have this set up here from a vendor. And again, you can have income account when you sell it and a cost of goods or a purchase account for the expense account here. That's how that's set up there. Okay. All right. So 12,000. And guys, the most important thing when you're setting up a purchase order that you want to track for budgeting towards a project, you've got to make sure that this line right here, it says customer/project, you've got to make sure 100% that it has the project. And see how it has it right below there. So you've got the project here. It should default to that when you're actually creating projects within the projects module. But if you're outside of the projects, you can always come in here and manage that. It will always kind of have the name of the project underneath the customer name when you're doing that. Okay. All right, so classroom rentals for 8 months. We hit save here. So if I wanted to tag it again, Texas, I could come down here and do that. That's fine right there. Save. Okay. Awesome. So I've got my project tracked here. I'm going to close out of here. Head over to my transactions tab. And what we've got right here, we've got an estimate and we've got an invoice for $30,000 that's been paid. You can see it's applied payment here. And then we've got this purchase order for $12,000. So we've emailed the purchase order, they come back and they say that they can do it, but it's going to be $13,000. Okay, we agree to it, so ultimately we need to do a revision real quick of the purchase order, because before we convert this to a payable, we definitely need to have the amount want it to match perfectly what they are going to send us as far as invoicing goes here. Awesome. Okay, so now when we got that purchase order here, notice that there's nowhere here that we can modify the PO number. It just gave us this default PO 1002. You might not like that. So if you're new to QuickBooks and you want to have your own transactional numbers here, we can go up to the gear icon and click Custom Transaction Numbers and just take that. Now we've got control to actually set up our current PO here. So let's create a different PO, I think. So I'm just going to call it 85-52B. All right. Save and send. Now we save and send. Great, it's gone out there. Excellent. And now they come back. They might come back and they might decide to split their invoicing system up. Instead of invoicing the full 13,000, they might do half and half. So I'm going to click copy to bill, and I'm just going to go right here and divide by 2, so /2 tab, and we've got 6,500 here. Now again, I would definitely be looking for an invoice here for that particular method here, and I would type in the invoice that they gave us. So if they gave us, invoice 5455, we want to match the record from Room Rentals Plus that sent us this. We would then attach the bill here, or use the receipt forwarding to go ahead and forward your invoice to QuickBooks to convert it to a bill. Okay, and this is great. This is awesome here. All right, if I'm using the Melio payments, then this is a newer feature, guys. This is awesome. I can actually, could actually send a check to Room Rentals Plus, or do an ACH with their account number, routing number for free right now by clicking on the Schedule Online Payment, linking up my bank account to their bank account to make that payment there, either through check or direct deposit. So there also could be a fee, 2.9%, if you want to use your credit card to defer payments and earn credit card rewards. You could actually post to your credit card as well to make the payment there. So good stuff there. Just gives you more options than what you might be used to with actually having to do your own payment method here. Just gives you a lot more flexibilities now for that schedule online payment here. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and mark it as paid. Take care of that right now, and take care of that. Awesome. Save and close. Okay. All right, so perfect. We're plugging away here, and let's take a look at our project reports. Project profitability without time. And that's what we've got right here. 30,000 in, 6,500 out. At the end of the day, we're profitable by $23,500 at this particular point here. If you're like, well, that's great, but our managers need to know the overall big picture. We know that this number up here should be 75,000. I like to be able to compare the 30,000 against the 75,000 to see how much we have left remaining of that, plus any other additional income and expense categories out there. So, welcome, my friends. This is going to begin our budget opportunities here. So, setting up a budget for the first time involves that you go to the Tools Budgeting menu. On our gear icon, we're going to see Tools Budgeting. And again, you've got to have QuickBooks Online Plus to take advantage of the budgeting or advanced. I'm going to click budgeting and let's take a dive into setting this up here. Alright, this is great. Adding your first budget. So budgets make growing your business easier. Just pre-fill out your data, add your targets, and start towards your goal. Okay, a budget can be modified. It's not permanent, but let's go in with the intention that we have at this point a good starting point to begin with. So when you click add budget, you're going to give it a name here. So let's just go ahead and just call this our Eagles Wings budget. Okay, and if I wanted to put 11235 Lucas Pacioli Drive, because that's the name of the project, I could append that to the side there. Okay. Alright, the next option that you have here is to select the fiscal year. So if your budget is going to cross over a year, it's super important that you begin with the year that the first estimate or purchase order or first transaction begins. So now as I record this, it's 2021, but I expect this 8 months to go into 2022. So I'm going to select fiscal year 2021. The good news is that when we cross over into January, the budget will continue on, okay? Just don't get yourself in a position where you pick the end year. It'll be impossible to go and show any transactions in the prior year. So you need to start with the beginning here. It's a little bit confusing, I know, if you're crossing over years, but definitely disregard that it says stopping at 2021. Disregard that. It will keep going. It can be 5 years. You know, it's as long as you have this front part to begin here. Now, there are times when you might want to do a monthly or quarterly. That might make sense, but not for a project. Notice when we do quarterly, it's going to automatically break it into 4 groups here. If we did yearly, that's typically what we want when you're doing a project budget, because it's just one set of numbers, right? Your total income, your total expense is one set. So definitely just jump right into yearly. It'll make things a whole lot easier, I think, doing that. The one downside to this that I wish was a little bit better is you have to put in all your numbers to the right, and it's just a real disconnect from like seeing it. So from a visual design perspective, I hope they improve this by making it easier to type in the numbers here. But it is what it is. Okay, pre-fill data. We would most likely say no if it's a brand new account. If you're doing a budget for your whole company, yes, pre-fill data is great because it will pull in the chart of accounts of what you spent last year and what you made last year to the data set. Okay. And then we have a very important one here, subdivide by. This is critical. You won't see project on this, but you will see customer. And so you've got to make sure that if you're going to do a budget to the project, you definitely need to make sure that it says customer here. That is super important here. And then the next drop down that you get would be add subdivided by. Right, at this point in time, we would need to find our project, Eagles Wings here. And when you search Eagles Wings, you'll see the parent and then the project here. A colon separates the project. So remember we talked about you can have more than one project per customer. Like if you're doing a basement remodel and a kitchen remodel, you would see colon basement, colon kitchen. In our scenario, we only have one customer, one project, so the project has to be this here, the one after the colon here. Okay, perfect. At that particular point in time, we have accomplished this top part here. It's not hard, just need somebody to help guide you, and that's exactly what we need here to get started Then we're going to enter in some numbers here. And so this might be where you have if Excel opened up and you're copying and pasting. But let's go ahead and start with, we have $75,000 of income coming in from training. So here's my training income. Oh, at this point here, I forgot you have to hit next before we can start calculating and putting in the numbers. So I'm going to hit next, and there we go here. So training here. Okay, 75. Okay, all right, see my friends what I'm talking about? Here's the word training. All the way to the right, we've got to do that. I don't know to you if that bothers you, but it kind of bothers me, particularly when I'm setting up budgets that have 70 rows of data on it. It's not easy to manage that. All right. So remember that our purchase order was 13,000. So we're going to find this room rental here and change 13,000. Okay. Let's set up advertising and promotion for 5,000. Let's set up subcontractors cost of labor 20,000. Let's set up some insurance, some general liability insurance for 1,500. And lastly, let's set up some software end user agreements where we're going to be purchasing end user site, some Microsoft licensing here. Let's say we are going to $57.50. Okay, just trying to keep it simple, give you enough details here to get the picture of what we're trying to accomplish here. We'll save this budget here by hitting save. It says Eagles Wings budget 11235 Lucas Pachola Drive saved. Okay, at this point in time, we can also hit the white arrow to save and close. Okay, now when you're in the budgets module by clicking on the gear icon, budgeting, if you have a budget that you've done in the past, you'll see them right here. Okay, clicking the little checkbox here would let you delete it. If you did a complete mess up, you could delete it. All right. Otherwise, over on the far right hand side, it just kind of gives us our periods here to be mindful of. Remember, don't make it start with the period of the very first transaction. It tells you when it's created, last updated, and then we have edit if we wanted to go back and make an update to the number. So we hit a little black arrow that lets you copy, delete, run budgets versus actuals report, run budget overview report. So let me begin with the overview report. Okay. And the overview report is going to show you your primary customer here and then the projects off the side. It's just they're kind of attached to that model there. Okay. So that is our overview report. Let me go back to the budgeting tool and show you the other report. Budgets versus actuals. Okay. And this is where things get crazy, I think, as far as what is going on here. It's almost like just kind of give up. But don't give up. If you're in this scenario here, the next step would be to hit customize and then filter, and where it says customer, we would then search for the Eagles Wings project. Run report here. Okay. That's critical to do that step there. The second thing that's going to be critical is to click customize. And the grid, okay, the grid here says accounts versus customers. Well, it's taken me a long time to figure this out here. That if you just go in and go to accounts versus total, accounts versus total, and hit run report, suddenly we've taken all that complicated over too much information to it. It's a little bit more what I'm after, which is to show us here's what we have received, 30,000. Here's our budgeted income. That means we have $45,000 left remaining in that scenario here. So things are looking a lot better here, but we can keep doing more. Okay. So there's an option that says compare to compare another period, and I want you to see this here. So we have the 4 things here. We've got over budget, percent budget, remaining, percent remaining. So I'm just going to check all 4 here. Give you an idea of what you might be after here. So we've got actuals, budget, over budget remaining, percent remaining. Okay. If you just needed it to be very simple, all you would need to do is just come in here and let's say I just want remaining, dollar remaining. So to me, that's really cool. That's kind of like our cost that we have left to spend here. You might like the percentages. It's totally up to you as far as what you want to show. And perhaps, you know, you can go in here and you're gonna, before you save this, you might want to add the logo. You might want to modify this right here. It's pretty lengthy here. Okay, I might just call it budget remaining for Eagle's Wings. Okay, awesome. Okay. Oh, and there's also one other thing here that we've got to do. This is going to stop in December 2021. That's important. And I know our costs are going to keep going into January. So we also need to click Customize. And for the period here, we either do all dates to be safeguarded to get everything, or if there's an actual specific stopping point, you could do it from there. Don't forget, you've got cash or accrual method here. So that's also very important based on your standard of managing the reports here. So just to review, we've got our budget, we've got all dates, accrual, how you like to see it. I'm going to take without cents. I'm going to take the cents off here, keep it a little bit easier here. You got only accounts with budgeted amounts. No, I'm going to keep that alone. Here's another opportunity that you have for period comparison, customer, and then if you wanted to do anything on the header and footer area, this would be the place to do that. And here's one more place to do your report title here. Okay, so run report. Pretty confident that that's exactly what I want. So at this point in time, I would hit Save Customization. I'm going to save it, but you know, it comes off the title here, so make sure you clean up your title first before you get in there if you like that. If I like to have my stakeholders see this and they're admins of QuickBooks Online, I would share this either to a group that I've already specified, so it could be emailed out. I've got an email, or I could just put all, and then multiple users would have access to it when they log in, assuming their permissions are set up to do that. Save. Awesome. Okay, my friends, so at this particular point in time, I'll find that by going to Reports, Custom Reports, and there ought to be this right here. That's my budget remaining for Eagle's Wings. Run it anytime, and you can set it up here. That is going to be pretty awesome there to manage, to see where we're at on those accounts there. All right, let's head back to the projects. Okay. I'm going to talk about this little graphic here that says income and cost here. Okay. and a profit margin, okay? So one of the things I've noticed with my clients is they will get to this section here and start to kind of get a little bit stressed that they know that they spent more cost on the project here, okay? Well, the thing about the cost is that these are cost of goods sold. That's it, okay? So if you've got anything that's an overhead cost, just a regular expense, they are not going to show up in that particular module there, okay? Let's do a quick demo here. Let's say that I just go to add project. I'm just going to create a quick expense here. It's going to be the general liability insurance here, okay, and for 1,500, okay. Just need to do Hiscox, okay. Credit card's fine, everything's good here. Save. Okay, again, make sure the project is set up on that here. I'm not going to make it billable. Why not? Why not? Actually, let's make it billable because that will help us see another opportunity to track your cost and perhaps. Okay. All right. So I stand corrected. Okay. So our overview is 30,000. We've got our cost here. Room rentals is a cost of goods sold, so that's up there. Our regular expenses here. Wow, that to me is awesome. I stand corrected. I am just thinking. I think in earlier versions we weren't seeing that up there, and now that perhaps is a new feature. I don't know, but either way, I'm happy about that because that kind of gives us a more realistic picture of where we're at this point of time frame right here. All right. So this is leading us to 2 more reports. Thank you for hanging in here and watching this. But remember how we have an estimate that hasn't been fully converted, and we also have a purchase order that's only halfway done. Now let's talk about a couple of quick reports that you might enjoy on managing. So if we go to reports standard and just start typing estimates, you might like this estimates in progress invoicing summary by customer. What this allows us to do here is take a look at your estimate 1001. It's accepted at 75,000, but the invoiced amount here is only 30,000. So that will help you kind of see where you're at. And that will help you if you have lots of projects going on where you can see a big picture of scenarios here. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert the other 40%. We're just kind of fast forward here, create invoice, 40%. Remember it's 40, 40, 20, so hit create invoice. I'll go ahead and make this go into January 2022. Okay, save. All right, so now we're invoiced 80% here. And the other report that I want to share with you is the open purchase order. So if we just type purchase order, open purchase order list here. So the room rentals plus, remember, is 13,000. They sent us an invoice for 6,500, right? There's one more left, and we can actually open up this PO here. At this particular point in time here, we can see that there's a box that says received 6,500. Okay, it's not closed yet. I'm going to close it by coming up here to copy the bill. Before I do that, you can see there's already one linked bill here, right here. That's 6,500. We're going to create the second linked bill, and let's say it's 68.52. and we'll put that out for February 10th. Okay, save and close. All right, so that purchase order is now closed, so it's no longer open. Remember, this was the open purchase order list that we were running. Closed. It's good to go here. I want to talk about how to track time with your projects. So you can see here that I've got my first time entry of 3 hours here. Okay, so a couple things to note is, first of all, you might have a QuickBooks payroll subscription, and with that includes the time tracking. Okay, for your employees that have costs, what's nice is you can actually have an employee that kind of shows the total cost of the wages that you pay them, plus the payroll taxes the employer's paying, and any associated overhead costs that you'd like to have associated with that. Okay, so to begin, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to navigate to Time Overview, and then from here you're going to see an opportunity to track time entries. Okay, your very first time tracking time would be to click the Add Time button here. Okay, you'll see this, and then assuming that you want to do a manual entry of the time, not ideal, but just to show you in this demo here, you'd want to make a selection of the date that you're working with, the actual time frame that you're generating, add work details, link it to the actual project you have in mind, modify the services that's associated with the income that's being produced here. Any notes go here, and whether or not you want it to be billable or not. Okay, so at this particular point, we just would hit done here. Okay, great. And then save. Okay, let me close out of here. Now, what is the actual cost associated with having the employee? We know that when you have somebody on payroll, it's more than just the payroll wages. It's payroll taxes and overhead costs as well. To plug that number in, we would navigate to the Projects menu here, and in the upper right-hand corner, we have Hourly Cost Rate. Okay, so let's click on this little pencil here. This is going to get us the total wages, taxes, overhead for each worker. And note that this is not your billable rate. This has nothing to do with if you're going to bill the client on the project, anything. This is our internal cost here. So check it out. You can click on the little calculator, and the first thing you're going to do is enter their wages at an hourly level. Okay, so if this person earns $35 an hour, it automatically calculates the employer Social Security and Medicare at 7.65%. We could add an additional state unemployment tax and FUTA, so I'm just going to put in something small there. And then lastly, any workers' compensation, like how much you're spending on workers' compensation insurance, we could put something in there. And then finally, any overhead costs as well, to get basically what's considered an average per hour rate count. I know it's kind of insane to break it up by hours and all that, but this is just for showing you what the capabilities are if you are really wanting to break it out as such here. So now we've got a cost rate per employee that's going to come separately. Do you want to close? Cancel? No, I wanted to save here. So let me hit save, hit done. Awesome. Okay. Now that we've got that in there, and you've included, the timesheets coming over from your system, or you've manually put them in for your workers on the payroll modules, navigating to the projects, you're going to have another section here called hourly time cost here. You can also find it under time activity as well, that you'll see happening for each of these transactions here. Okay, so you got 3 hours, 1 hour, and you can see kind of how it's using that effective cost rate per employee. When you get to the project reports here, we'll have the ability to do project profitability without time cost. Okay, so nothing in here has any tracking whatsoever with the time cost here. To actually see the overhead of the time, we would navigate back to the overall project, and we would see that updated as part of our cost structure here. So just a couple of things here of note. You might want to put some hourly cost inside the cost tracker, just to help us produce a more realistic goal of the profitability as well. So that's a little snapshot of how to calculate the times and so forth like that. Now, if you're dealing with actual subcontractors in America, there's no payroll cost associated with that. We could basically, when we wanted to pay them, either they give us an invoice and we set up the bill and pay them, or you know, we would just link it to, if we would just want to make sure that when we did an expense to pay a contractor, that it was linked to the project itself. Okay, so you know, for example, if I created a quick bill here, and the vendor was Henry Rocksport, just somebody I just made up here, and they are working as a subcontractor, and they bill us for, we'll just say $2,000. They give us a bill here. I'm just saying here. This is what's important here. Is that if you want it to hit the budget, you got to make sure that it hits the project budget here. You can see Eagle Wings customer. Again, projects are always going to be one underneath of it, and it will say project up right above. All right, hit save. Perfect. And then, of course, I could schedule the online payment and go forth with paying this person online and so forth like that. I'll go ahead and mark it as paid, just to do a straight payment. Perfect. Okay, let's wrap things up here. Let's take a look at our final budget. Let's go back to reports, custom reports, budget, and see how things are looking here. So as far as the income comes, we've got 60,000 actual. We budgeted 75. We know that there's 15,000 left remaining. Okay, that's just a matter of closing out that last 20%. Let's go ahead and do that. To find that invoice on the fly, I like to just go here. I can see the last invoicing here. I can open up either of these, because I know that I can get back to the source estimate by clicking in the top left-hand corner. Estimate. Take a look down at the bottom. I see my estimate total was 75,000. I've invoiced 60,000. I've got 15K remaining. Perfect. So I'll click Create Invoice. And at this point, typically I would just do the closing out, just the remaining total there. That way, if there was sales tax associated with it, I know that I'm guaranteed that I'm closing out the final estimate to the third and final invoice here. So 15, great. Save that. Perfect. Okay, then when I come back to the linked estimate, there's going to be 3 linked invoices here, and so forth as well. All right, so I can see now, I feel good. We have closed it. We've zeroed out that budget there. Okay. So I've got more money to be spent on the subcontractors. Now, interesting here what happened to that bill that we paid the contractor. And notice what happened here. I made a mistake. I put it towards subcontractor independent contractors. And another great thing about doing a budget, you can see if you hit the wrong account and so forth. So I intended that 2,000 to be part of the 20,000. So I need to go in and I can just click on the 2,000 here, open up Henry Rockport bill, change this to the contractors of cost of goods sold, and then hit the save here. And then at that particular point in time, when I go back to the overall budget report, notice that hitting back kind of expands here. Remember, you can just go back anytime to the budget that you had saved ideally, and then we can see that we've got 18,000 left to spend on our labor here. If you'd rather have a percentage, how much percent is left remaining, remember all you got to do is go up to the compare to another period and do the percent remaining. Add that to it here. Alright, so we have 90% remaining. Alright, just a final wind down here of our video here. Back to projects, we can see when we're on the main project tabs, you'll see a list of all your projects here. This star, if you click on the star, will favor it. So in other words, it will appear at the top where all the others will follow below. We are only seeing the ones that are in progress. There's opportunities to see completed or canceled. Now in order to change the status, you're going to need to click through, and at the very top you'll be able to change it to either completed or canceled. Those notes are available here. That's basically what we originally started out with. If you want to add more notes, you would click the edit button, continue on with there, and save those changes there. The other thing about projects is it's going to track every transaction connected to the account here. So if you find out you're missing something here, this is where you could try to do some troubleshooting. It's possible that you think you're missing maybe a purchase order. What's nice, you can come through here and say, okay, I just want to see the purchase orders. Okay, just like that, you'd be able to identify. Also, is the purchase order open or closed still? You can see the status here. So that's really, really handy here. All invoices, you can see our 3 invoices here as well. And this has 30,000 paid, but we still have 2 open invoices up. If that's a mistake, you can easily receive that payment and go forth with that. Okay, so let me filter this out here. This is all the transactions. Another cool thing you can do is sort by dates, sort by types by clicking on the type just to get them all. I find that very useful to see those transactions there. You can also sort by status, also very easily as well, to see kind of where you're trying to take a look at here. So I am alerted to one billable expense charge that is still open. I could create the invoice from here. I also would have the ability to see that in the project reports as well. I could run a report that filters out all unbilled time and expense. Right, so in addition to the unbilled time and expenses, time cost by employee, and project property, you'll notice that there's no budget report here. I wish there was a way to show the budget for the project on the project report. So since that's not an option, you're going to have to remember that you have to go outside to get the project budget. And we would have, again, all the budgets always start by going to the gear icon and selecting the budgeting tool. And here's the view of it right here. When you try to run the budgets versus actuals, remember it's really just kind of explodes on you here. You're gonna need to hit customize and then come down to filter, and where it says customer, you would type in your project. Also, it's best recommended on the grid instead of accounts versus customers, which is the default. That's why you get all these customers here right off the bat whenever you come in and out of it. Select accounts versus total. Then run report. And at that point in time here, the next step would be to clean up the name of the report here. You know, it's just something like budget for project XYZ. And the other crucial thing to do is to verify that under customize, you've got it for all dates, because we know that projects can last over the year. So the budget will set up the fiscal year, come into here, change to all dates, go with without cents if you desire, if negative numbers in red if you want to show if you're over budget on a particular one here. And then we got the 4 options here: over budget, percent of budget. I like the dollar remaining myself, and any of these you can add to it. I'll just keep it, I'll just say remaining, okay, and take off over budget, and then run report. Okay, there we go here. And then when you're finally said and done, you would hit save and customize and give it the name here. You might also take note of whether it's accrual or cash and put that as the description of the budget here. So if I lead off with accrual for the name, for example, that helps me know that when we run the budget, we're working on accruals for this particular one. Add it to a group if you want it to be emailed to a particular core group of managers on a weekly level or perhaps daily or monthly, and share it with your colleagues as well that have admin permissions on it. Once you hit save here, you'll see all of your custom reporting in the reports custom report tab. And if you wanted to have an email go out, the opportunities that you have is you have to create a group first, then add the reports to the groups. When you create the group, you'll have an opportunity to change the frequency to daily, weekly, monthly, twice a month, and all those reports that are in there will go out as a PDF or as an Excel file if you check that Excel file option there. Alright, thanks so much for watching. I sincerely enjoyed teaching this course here on working with budgets, where you learn how to create projects, manage those projects by linking projects with budgets, and running an actuals versus budgets report. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you in another video soon.